last year, dMBA had its best year ever in terms of the revenue. We did 1 million euros. But I also really disliked running the business, even though it was the best year. Yeah, I was just looking for ways to get out of the business, to have other people run it. Hey, let's just get to this point and then maybe I hand it over and then somebody else can run it. And I realized that I have accidentally built a wrong business for myself. I built a business that I really disliked, so much so that the only reason to keep going was to make money. I'm just frankly speaking here. And in this video, I want to share my journey over the last 7 years of running the MBA and what I have learned, and what I'm going to do now with these realizations and trying to build a different type of company. And I think this might be interesting to you if you are running your own company and something feels off, or if you're thinking of starting your own company one day. I think this video might save you literally years. If I knew this, yeah, it would be literally years of saved time and a lot of money. Yeah, because you might be more aligned building what you actually want deeply inside. So as you can see here, like in between the lines, what I learned is that entrepreneurship is a game of really and deeply knowing yourself, like your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, and basically building something that works for you. Because if you build something that doesn't work for you, you will sabotage it. And there's a lot of this grind culture, hustle culture among entrepreneurship. Oh, let's just, push through. Let's just find ways to grow and so on. And I don't subscribe to that. Yes, entrepreneurship is really tough mentally. It can be also physically, but it's also can be very enjoyable, and it should be. And that's the only way to keep doing it for 10, 20, 30 years, which is how you get the real returns of compounding skills. So yeah, I don't want to go down that path. I just want to go down the path of really being in the flow with the business. And doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, but maybe that's going to be what I'm trying to say. It's going to become a little bit more clear once we go through the video. So yeah, that's why I thought I would share behind the scenes of how I'm basically rebuilding the MBA after we had our best year, after we have made 1 million euros in 2024, and after we have made 3 million euros in total over the last 6 or 7 or 8 years, which is a good result for an online education business. But yeah, I'm going to be rebuilding this business, and I just want to share behind the scenes because I think a lot of you might find this interesting. And I've seen how these kind of videos have helped me, but also it's a process for me to be able to even better understand my thoughts, because I learned that the best way for me to actually synthesize what is happening in my head is to try and share it with someone else, like teach it. And in this case, it's going to be this kind of video. So it might be the only video in this series. It might be that I'm doing more if this one goes well. Let's see. So what I'll do is I'll be sharing real numbers, real lessons, try to be as honest with you as possible. And yeah, hopefully build something that I enjoy more. I hope that is hopefully an educational business that helps me hit my main values, which is be able to creatively express myself, because I actually see myself as part artist, part entrepreneur. These two are the personas in me. I'm almost like an artist that is just expressing himself through entrepreneurship. That's actually how I see myself. So I want to have that creative freedom, I want to have financial freedom, and I want to have the impact for the people that I want to work with. So that's basically what I'm trying to build. It's a very long intro. So if you're still here, let's jump into what I'm actually going to share with you, which is what you see on the screen. So this is a mirror board I just quickly prepared to want to walk you through basically what has happened in the last 7 years and the main learnings. And we have to start with before I started the dMBA. And it's relevant for this story, for this storyline, which is that I started business. So, I didn't go to design school. I wasn't a typical traditional designer, despite me in the end creating a school for designers. So I started business. And I was lucky enough to have a teacher who also had some connections to IDEO. So basically, she was teaching us in a business school design thinking methodologies. And she has heard that actually IDEO has started hiring business people, so business designers. So she told me, hey, maybe you should apply and so on. So yeah, I was lucky enough to get a job as a business designer, one of the very first business designers at IDEO. And, I was then learning, I had this business knowledge, but then I was starting to learn the design knowledge, design thinking, design methodology, design mindset, and so on. It was a rocky learning, because it's not really about learning skills. It's really like changing how your brain thinks. Because in a business school, you're taught to go like very quickly from a lot of possibilities to the best one. So like deductive thinking. And in design, you're really taught to stay in this fuzzy middle gray area, and just be okay with not knowing, and then only then converge into the solution, right? So in a business school, you would just go from very quickly from a lot of possibilities to the most optimal solution. And in design, you're like, hey, this is the problem. Let's think about it. Let's stay broad. And only then we kind of go into, finding the solution. Alrighty. So it was rocky in the beginning, but then after I was done with learning design, I realized actually there's a bigger problem here. A lot of my colleagues, they have a lot of design knowledge, but we are being hired by big agencies, consultancies to teach them but to help them with their strategy. And these design colleagues didn't have a lot of business knowledge. So that's where I got the idea for dMBA. I even pitched it internally to some people at IDEO. Didn't go well, and I just decided to do it myself. I'm going to skip some parts, but basically what's relevant is that around 2017, I just posted on LinkedIn that I'm thinking of doing a basically business school for designers called dMBA. I posted like a picture of a curriculum, and 8 people raised their hand and said, yes, I would be interested. And I sold that for $500. So in total of 4,000 euros was made, but the feeling was amazing. That feeling of making online money. And it just quickly grew out of that. So second cohort was 30 people who paid 1,000 euros. Then third cohort, already 60 people at 1,200 euros. And it just felt like, wow, okay, this is growing crazy. So I have really found an interesting product market fit. It seems that designers really want this. And I also just enjoyed teaching. And this meant that we quite quickly grew to 500,000 a year. So 500,000 euros in revenue a year. And then we were stuck here for years. And it really felt super, super painful. And then we made some big changes last year to get to 1 million a year. And then this year is again going to be a pretty bad financial year. But I'll walk you through why that's the case, why this graph has evolved the way it's evolved. And what I have here is basically what has happened with the business over these years in terms of the team, in terms of my feelings towards the business, and then in terms of this is supposed to be an image of a hand. Yeah, I'm not the best mirror drawer, but this is a hand. So this is basically what I have done during these different phases. So basically what I'm saying here is that I started this business alone, and I did the first 2 or 3 cohorts more or less alone with some minor help. And it was just like the best time ever, super exciting. I was teaching, creating, building, and I just loved it. And then when we hit this like 300 to 500K mark, it just felt like, oh, there's something more here. Let's scale this like a real company. And I put real company in parentheses here because, yeah, if you go to a business school, there's just this, you just passively get to learn certain like principles, which is you always should grow and you should systematize. You need to hire people. You need to make yourself redundant. There are all these really core ideas to building a good business, because good business is a sellable business, something that the business doesn't need you anymore. And yeah, I just by default stepped in that path, not even thinking about it. It's just a predominant thought of how a business is run. And some of you might have found yourself in this. Maybe you started as a freelancer and then you felt, oh, there's more demand than I can supply. Let me hire one more person. And then there was even still more demand and you hired another person. And just slowly but surely your whole role started to change, maybe for better, maybe for worse. But yeah, there is this feeling in business that bigger, less reliant on you is always better, right? So that's what we've done. So start hiring people. At a certain point, there was 7, maybe at a certain point, even 8 of us. And there was a lot of even outside people helping, freelancers for video, for graphic design, we even had like teaching assistants. At a certain point, we even had 10 tutors helping on one specific cohort. That was just a lot to manage, right? So we went from me being alone to having like a full-blown team. And at that stage, especially here around 2021, 2022, it was still super interesting because I was solving new problems and there was excitement about what there could be, but it also just started to feel extremely, extremely heavy. There was a team and my role completely changed from teaching and creating and building to basically like admin stuff, like legal, salaries, finance, hiring, feeding tasks. I would wake up, I would have a look at the Slack, see people online, and I would be thinking, okay, does she have something to do? If not, maybe I should find something for her to do. I need to give this person a feedback. Oh, right. So this is the thing that this is blocking them. Oh, let me hop on this and take care of that. So it was a lot of just like reactionary work, reviewing what they have done, giving them tasks. And then my most hated thing that I ever created was dailies. So at a certain point, it just felt right to have like a daily meeting every day at 11:30 a.m. our time, so Central European time. We would do a daily daily meeting, which was just everyone in the team getting onto a Zoom call. First of all, just chatting for 5-10 minutes, and then just saying what is on your plate today. Because I've heard that this is what you do. You need to have dailies. And this quickly became my most dreaded moment of the day. Because if I was in the flow of doing something, I just had to hop on this call and just drop that thing. And usually the daily meeting didn't really help me resolve stuff. It just added more stuff onto my plate. It was just the thing I hated the most. So basically what I've done was the stuff that I loved doing before, teaching, creating, building, is the thing I started to outsource. I was looking for tutors, mentors to do teaching instead of me. I was looking for copywriters to write instead of me. I was looking for somebody to help me do podcasts with me or even do it instead of me. Because again, the idea was if this isn't reliant on me, it would be a better business. And maybe it would be a better business, but not for me. Okay? And I'll come to this very, very soon. So in this stage, it just started to feel very, very heavy, unenjoyable, still slightly interesting because I was solving new problems and I just thought this is the right way and I need to push through. And the idea always was, once we achieve higher levels of revenue and there's more profit, I can really outsource this thing and I'm going to be out of it. If only I knew. So there was this idea, there was this feeling that I had, which is, I don't like it anymore, but if we grow, it's going to get better. And at this point, the only point to keep going with this was to make money. And that's never a good motivation. I'll just leave it there. So what we have done in this stage to actually go from 500,000 to 1 million is do certain things that we've never done before because they felt the right things to do. For example, we introduced a self-paced dMBA. And we always prided ourselves with, oh, we don't think self-paced is a good product. We actually think cohort-based is the right way to do education, because then you have the benefits of the group dynamics, accountability, and it's just people learn more. And but the business wanted us to offer self-paced because there's a lot of people who didn't have time or couldn't afford a cohort-based version. So it was just like a smart, rational thing to do. And we did it for a Black Friday last year in 2024, and it was our best week ever. So we broke all the sales records. We did $250,000 in 5 days. And as you can imagine, it felt great for a moment. It was like, okay, we are on the right path. We learned how to do a campaign, which is a very important skill to have. But at the same time, something was off for me. It just felt like going against the certain principles that I was setting for the company and myself in the beginning around the philosophy of how we do things. And so it wasn't just the role anymore that I was in, but it also just felt like the philosophy of the company just really became just to make money. And you try to justify that. But it just starts to eat your soul, right? I mean, it depends on your values and how all that comes together, but I'll explain why this for me was basically the beginning of the end of the story here. So yeah, I realized that something is very, very off, but this thing has also then led into 2025, where we did more such decisions. We introduced some new formats of the dMBA, such as 12-month version and the 6-month version. We were trying to sell at a much higher price point. Some of you might have seen this. Some of you might have joined this program. But I honestly think these programs are of really, I would even say, higher quality than certain things that we did before. It's just that my energy was not there anymore, and you could feel it. A lot of these small businesses that maybe you run, that I run, you need to realize that they really depend on the founder energy. And when the founder is absent, or if the energy is not there anymore, you're doing your company a disservice. I mean, the most important thing is to always find a way to connect with a company, to give it that energy. And one of the realizations I had was that you need to be a little bit egoistical to build a good company that does good for the customers and for the team members. Because if you are doing a disservice to yourself and trying to do something that you will not like doing in a year or 2 years, or even like 6 months, the results will not follow. And when they not follow, then the team members, they suffer and the customers suffer. So it is a paradox, right? So to do good for others, you need to first take care of yourself, and you need to know yourself to be able to do this. And yeah, for me, it was realizing that basically I built the wrong business for myself. And I basically need to go back to what I really love doing, which is teaching, creating, building, shipping. And I need to go away from building a team to building a team around me. I was trying to build a team and trying to grow their skills and teach them and so on. But I realized that actually what I need is a team that enables me to do my best work. And there was a huge realization and a huge relief also when I told this to the team, which is, hey, we're switching from building a dMBA to building almost like Alan as a personal brand. And a consequence of that is dMBA, which means I can really now hand over, and I'm happy to say that I'm in the process of finally handing over finance, admin stuff to someone who is much better at doing that. And the reason I didn't do it so far is because I was afraid. Like, what if somebody else actually sees the numbers? What if they don't do a good job? What if they see the numbers and so on? So it was just a fear, and this is another part of this, just growth as an entrepreneur that you have to go through. Anyway, so what I'm trying to do now in the next stage is building the right business for myself. And the framework that really helped me in this process was this notion of a maker versus manager. So you might have read Paul Graham's Maker Schedule versus Manager Schedule essay. If you didn't, highly recommend it. But the core idea is that you have two type of employees, two type of people in companies. There are people who are like makers. They're like the ones who are building stuff, and they need to explore different topics and different solutions to the thing that they're building. And they're on a completely different schedule than a manager. So maker needs like maybe 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes of block of times to be able to go deep into a problem, to try and solve it, and to come back with something like, hey, I made this. And a manager, on the other hand, like they work in like these 15, 30-minute increments where they can start a task, they can get it half done and then switch to another task because it's very executional. Like the switching costs are much lower for managers. So managers can have their calendars divided into like 15-minute, 30-minute, 1-hour slots. And makers, like we need like full days sometimes to do something. So like when a manager sees an empty calendar of a maker, they're like, hey, can we actually have a call at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning? And you're like, I guess so. But then it just breaks your whole flow. So I just realized that I'm not a manager, even though I do have certain skills of systematizing and handing tasks and actually being able to not just start tasks but finish them and so on. So certain like qualities of a manager, but it's just not what I'm really good at. And it's a waste of my zone of genius to be doing more of that. I should actually find somebody who can support me to do what I do best, which is being a maker. And the cost of me not knowing that was just going down the completely wrong path, years, so to say, years of business life lost, hiring wrong mentors, hiring wrong people, and it was losing my creative freedom, having no time to actually create. And I was really, really frustrated by that. And I didn't even know why I was so frustrated. I was just feeling so frustrated with people in the company, and yeah, it was not a good place for anyone. So I just felt like a hostage of my own business. And what I realized I'm really good at, and you need also some perspective to be able to realize this, and working with other people and realizing where you're stronger than they are does give you that perspective. So me having gone through this experience has given me more perspective on what is my superpower so to say. And, I think a lot of people maybe watching this will identify as a maker. But the thing is to find what is your playing ground for the maker. For some people, it might be physical stuff, doing something physical. For me, it's very much around intellectual property. So I really love beautifully designed books, beautifully designed frameworks. How do you take something that's complicated and explain it simply? How do you make sense of this world? So I really love, writing, presenting, tinkering. So my natural zone of genius is teaching, writing, author kind of role, right? And this is a super important realization because I was trying to outsource exactly my superpower. And no wonder I was not happy with other people who were teaching my content. That's even worse, right? They had to teach my content, so it was tough on them. But also I feel I'm just good at that. Yeah. So big realizations. I'm completely changing how we're moving forward. And where I thought I actually need to get rid of the business, I just needed to get rid of certain false beliefs and get to know myself better. So I have some shifts that I'm making in 2026. And let's go through them. So as I said, I'm moving, we are moving away from trying to build a dMBA brand, which is unrelated to Alan, to no, actually, let's work around me. Let's work around my personal brand, my interests, because this is the way to be able to sustain this over a long time. Because I want dMBA to be something that exists in 10, 20, 30 years, potentially. And the only way for that to work is the dMBA is not above me, but I'm above the dMBA. If I'm a maker, that's the only path. If I would be a manager, there would be another option. Okay, so that's gonna be the shift, working around my personal brand. Um, then I felt, because of dMBA and how it was positioned, which is like a business school for designers, I felt that the only thing I can talk about as Alan, as its founder, is about business. But I really love talking about entrepreneurship as well. So the big shift I'm making is also not just talking about business, but entrepreneurship. And I was afraid about teaching or talking about entrepreneurship because I felt like, yeah, people who are following the MBA, they really want just business knowledge, not entrepreneurship. But I realized that there's a lot of designers who want to start their own business as well. So why don't I actually teach both? It's going to be much more aligned with me and maybe even with a good chunk of the audience. Definitely not building a big team anymore when I have a small team that enables me to do my best work. Again, I was really afraid to even think this thought because it just feels so egoistical in a way. But I think it's the right one for a maker trying to build a business. Also, it's not about attracting this and this many people and trying to reach this and this many people with the dMBA. It's really about impact depth. It's for those people that we do touch and we do work with, that we have the feeling that actually, oh, there is a material change in their life. So really like feeling good because you have helped someone, not feeling good because you can say, oh, this and this many people bought and this is the revenue we've done. I want to move away from scaling the team to scaling profit. This is, again, very egoistical wish, and I'm just being frank here. So part of me running a business is also to have financial freedom, to have stability, to have good income. And yeah, I want more profit. And I think there's a bigger story here, which is I think the design community itself is full of really bad business models that are highly unprofitable or barely profitable. And what I will try to do with the dMBA is show a completely opposite way to run a creator-led, maker-led business, which hopefully can be an inspiration to some of you if you're a designer or creative looking at this, and show you that actually you can do both. You can be creatively expressive, you can be a maker, and you can make good money, and you can have impact for the people you want to have impact for. So I do want to scale profit as well. I want to move away from Zoom calls as much as possible, as much into async communication and in-person communication. It just feels like, for me personally, it gives more energy, and it just feels there's a lot of people in our community and in my customer base that will enjoy that more. So why not do it? And also, this is a big change for us as the MBA, which is we always have done this application calls. Means that when somebody would apply for the dMBA, they would need to fill out why they want to join, and then on the back of that, they would have an application call. And it just felt like a necessary thing to do, but it was also extremely hard to manage in terms of the team and the calendars. And we would have to work late in the evenings to allow people in the US to have calls with us. If somebody was sick, somebody else had to jump in to do the calls. So we just decided to try not to do that, which is to have admissions by chat. So school admissions by chat, meaning like you fill out the form, we'll have a look at it, we'll review it, and we'll just invite you to join if we think you're a good fit. And if you still have any questions for us, happy to chat via email, maybe via WhatsApp. Let's see, we'll figure this out in terms of the details. But the idea is that, and this is related now to the marketing, right? To not think in funnels. How can we get people through this funnel so quickly? But to just build so much trust and that people who are applying to dMBA know what they're getting themselves into because they have watched our content and consumed our content, such as this video potentially, where they understand the culture, the values, and everything we do so much that when they come to this stage that they're applying to the dMBA, we don't have to sell them anything. They're already like convinced. And we can just basically open the door instead of like trying to sell them to enter. And this also has a huge impact. If this is possible, which I think it should be, it has a huge impact also in keeping a small team, right? Not needing like a whole admissions department that would take care of this. So all of this is basically built around my values. And these values, actually, maybe this is easier to understand, is, as I said, I realized I'm an artist, sort of, right? Just the way I express myself is maybe content or building something. Like just as an example of this creative freedom, like what we have done in this industry, we're the first ones to create these really beautiful certificates, like what we call wall-worthy certificates. So certificates that actually deserve being on your wall. So like every student gets this unique piece of art kind of school certificate. Actually, let's have a look. This is, where is it? Yeah, this is it, right? So this is just one example. So every student would get a different shape, different color. So each person gets a unique one, but it just has the same, there's certain commonalities in terms of the shapes and colors that just, when you see the certificate, it clearly fits into the dMBA family. So it's just a really cool artifact. And it just feels different from usual school certificates. Oh, by the way, this is like the name of the student is here below. Instead of it being in the middle and the center, we just switched around. And the story here is that, hey, if you finished the MBA, you have created this piece of art through your hard work. So you're the author, and this is just a piece of art. And this is the institution that helped you get there. Anyway, so this is an example of this, how I'm trying to bring some of that creative freedom to the product. And there's even ideas we have around, what if we once a year do like an in-person, we rent like a pop-up gallery in London potentially, and everyone who has graduated in the last year can visit that place. There's going to be all the certificates displayed in the room. And if you graduated, you're going to be called to the front, be handed your certificate. And if not, we're going to take great pictures, and it's just going to have that different feeling. It's not just an online school anymore, but it becomes a little bit more. There's more to the story. And it's also nice for dMBA because we're like, with that specific event, we will be combining art and business. And that is kind of the point of dMBA, is to show that if you're a designer with the business knowledge, you can do really cool stuff. You can really lead companies differently. Secondly, so going back to my values, creative freedom, financial freedom, so having stability of income and having security, I say. Yeah, so security is a big part of like my values also. I just, based on my background, which maybe we can talk about next time, is just a big part of what I want, is have the feeling that the business I'm building is not always like on the verge of failing, but it's just like, oh, this is firing on all cylinders and I feel I'm being taken care of. And lastly, impact freedom, so choosing who I am actually helping with this, and that I care about these people and I can choose how I help them. An example of that would be, giving designers the business knowledge that they need to be more impactful in their role so they don't feel stuck, or maybe even giving them business and entrepreneurial skills so they can start their own businesses, which would be my dream. So if you're a designer thinking about starting a business, definitely think about adding some business knowledge to your skill set, but also entrepreneurial skill set. Okay, this is way longer than I expected, this video, but I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of nuggets packed in here. What I will say is just, if you liked it, please maybe leave me some kind of feedback, some kind of comment that you have watched until the end, in terms of what resonated and maybe what is the stuff I could maybe focus on in the next session, in the next video, if I ever do one. So I did think about maybe creating this like a series of behind the scenes, where maybe in a month's time, I do another one where I share what we're actually doing now, or maybe I share some other learnings I had. But yeah, in order to just keep going, it would be great to know that this is resonating to some extent. So any kind of feedback, comment, but comment would be best, just hearing from you what resonated, or maybe what you would like me to do more of. And that's it. Yeah. Bye-bye.